This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and I'm with Peter Gordon. Peter is probably the best known voice in local broadcasting in the Guildford area, and I'm pleased to welcome him to the Dragon to discuss his role in the Ivanano Theatre pantomimes. The Ivanano has just announced that they are this year going to be putting on Jack and the Beanstalk, playing from Saturday the 3rd of December to Sunday the 8th of January, and will once again be starring Peter among others. Peter, welcome to the Guildford Dragon.
Thanks for having me, Martin. Nice to be here.
So how many years have you been involved with the Ivanano pantomimes?
So this run of Jack and the Beanstalk will be the 16th that I've been involved in. Then, fun enough, the involvement, the Arno, actually, in the end, I think we have to thank Woking because, which is a bit of a strange thing to say, but there is a reason for it. I did 2 runs in Woking in the early 2000s. Which came out of the fact that the people there thought it'd be quite fun to have the radio bloke appearing on stage. So I did a couple of quite long runs actually, and then I thought, well, there we go. That's a couple of things done. It's a sort of ambition achieved. I've always wanted to do a bit of sort of professional stage stuff, and that was that. And then Jamie Barber, bless him, at the Arno said, oh, look, if you're up for doing a little bit, why don't you come and do something with us? So I think I was the mirror to Stephanie Beacham's Wicked Queen in Snow White, and then after that I joined properly live, as it were, doing Jack and the Beanstalk first time round. So in the end it sort of came as a bit of a rehearsal from Woking with respect to them, and then all these years now at Guildford's Ivanano.
Okay, and what do you think has led the casting director to make you a dame? I think you've been a dame in each of the productions, is that right?
No, it's not actually. What happened, Martin? Yeah, no, I was, for some years, I was either the king, depending on the story, the king or the emperor, as in Aladdin. I did do an ugly sister quite early on as well. But the dame thing really only kicked in after Royce Mills. Martin, I can't tell you, just the loveliest of men to have worked with. So Royce was the regular dame when I first arrived, and then I'm afraid age got the better of him a bit on that, and of course he left us sadly a few years ago. I was honoured to do a little routine with Bonnie Langford actually at his memorial at the Actors Church in Covent Garden. So I took over from Royce, which is an amazing thing to say, even as I say it out loud, because he was just an amazing professional, really great as Dame, but of course was on TV screens left, right, and centre, all sorts of things. And Minder, he was Arthur Daly's accountant in Minder. People may forget, but so I took over from Royce, and I think what was going on there, Martin, neither of us would have realised this at the time, but Royce and I always used to be next door to each other in the dressing room corridor. So we'd always be catching up and chatting and, in and out of costume and all sorts of stuff. And I think probably looking back on it, I just learned quite a lot from him. Not, about panto acting, but actually also about being the dame. So I think really my dame, slightly strange talking about it in third person, but you know what I mean, I think was an extension or a progression or whatever, the next stage of what Royce was already doing. A lot of what he talked to me about, I now realize that I very much sort of follow. So yeah, that's how it all happened.
So why do you continue to do it? What do you get out of it?
Well, it's the thing is, Martin, the theatre, it's where I first saw my first pantomime in the 70s. And I used to be able to walk to the theatre. I just lived along the Horsham Road, just opposite Shalford Park. It's where I used to live as a boy. So here we are all these years later, and I have this opportunity to be up on stage for a period of time each year at my home theatre. And I mean, that's not a bad reason. And also it's great fun. It is a commitment. People sort of say, particularly when I always used to do radio in the early mornings and I do panto later in the day, say, oh yeah, gosh, you must get so tired. I don't know how you fit it all in. And you go, well, Do you know, I mean, that's not bad for working for a living, is it, really? You know, being on the audio stage and then being on an actual stage later in the day, and the enthusiasm and momentum and all the rest of it gets you through on that. So I do it because it's just a great thing to do, Martin. I mean,
And I guess it must be great to, have the appreciation of a live audience.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, actually, funnily enough, when I was doing radio full time, alongside, I learned things for both outlets. So I learned things around what I could adapt on stage, but actually, importantly, I learned on stage a little bit more about how I could work on radio. They are both very different things. Radio is very sort of, you're around that microphone and it, but at the same time, there are ways of making that work from actually taking a bit of experience from the stage, and then vice versa. So I think the two things really played off well for me. I think people can have their own opinion, but in my own way of working, I personally found that my radio involvement improved as a result of doing the stage work.
Interesting. Okay, so what amusing and perhaps not so amusing moments stand out in your memory from your career at the Ivano pantomimes?
Well, I've got a couple of things, both which involved things going slightly wrong.
Yeah,
which does happen. It's live. I mean, we do 60 shows a run, Martin. I mean, the probability is
it's going to happen.
Well, on the first proper live season I did, when I was the king in Jack and the Beanstalk in the mid-2000s, there was a routine that I was doing which involved Peter Duncan. Actually, you may know of the TV.
Yeah.
And I had to appear first on the stage, and it ended up being a bit of a custard pie scene, as these things do in Panto. And I think either from the previous whatever, or some of the sort of foam that you use for custard pie, I think it already got on the stage, maybe. So I arrived on stage and just literally went straight flat on my front, got up, and as you do, and of course the Arno, if people know it, and I love it because you're right on top of the action in the audience. It's I'm a QPR football fan, Martin. It's very similar at Loftus Road. We're right in on the action, so I love that sort of stuff. So it means you can see the audience. I got up from that slight sort of accident, and I was fine. But I remember looking up and looking into one of the boxes that's up in the circle, and there was Eric Clapton sitting there. And Eric has over the years visited, because obviously he lives in the area, as I'm sure you know. And I remember thinking, at what point in my career did I ever think I'd be dressed in a king's outfit with sort of custard pie all over me, having slipped over in front of Eric Clapton? So that was one. And then the other one was, I think this has only ever happened once, and it was Snow White. Which edition of Snow White, I'm not sure, but I think I was the Dame by then. I think I was Nurse Nellie, as you are, of course. And I remember appearing on stage on my own just to start the scene. And the cottage in the background, the Seven Doors, cottage, I was just aware that it just fell over behind me. And, there's only so much you can do at that point. You can't sort of say, oh, let's carry on and not worry about anything. I mean, it missed me, which was the first thing. But secondly, I think then the stage crew rather sort of appeared. But it was one of those lovely little moments. And look, it happens. And I look back on that rather than going, oh gosh, dear, oh dear, oh dear. I look back on that with fondness and go, do you know, that's live theatre, and lots of things like that happen, and how wonderful that I'm even involved to be able to witness it.
Well, it's all that mining those dwarfs do, I expect, that created a structural problem, right? And now you've worked with lots of celebs. Have any of them been prima donnas, or have they all been darlings?
Do you know? And this has been my experience, Martin. When I've ended up interviewing people in my radio career or media career, and you meet some of these superstars, and you think, oh gosh, I wonder what they're going to be like. Do you know, we're all people. We're all people. We're all under the same sun. And I find that pretty much with everyone I've worked with, some of the really big, well-known names that we've had at the Arno. And I've got, more often than not, we've ended up being friends. I mean, I had a great year with Nigel Havers. I mean, Nigel, if you want showbiz stories, Nigel Havers is your man. And We spent a lot of time backstage together because he was Abanazar, it was Aladdin, he was Abanazar, and I was still the Emperor at that point. And I had, an okay part, but we were backstage quite a lot, so got to know him. And there were other lovely top of the bill, Michelle Gale, who was on quite recently with us. Just fantastic and really lovely to get to know them. So I wouldn't have said that. You're working too hard and making sure everything is right, and all these shows that we do have got to be. There isn't really any space for any prima donnas, I think, and I
Really?
think, yeah, I think in Panto, like certainly in the world I've lived in. I mean, it was the same in Woking. Steve McFadden plays Phil Mitchell, EastEnders. I was alongside him. Really nice bloke. And then the other year, that year was Sam Kane and Linda Lusardi. Great people. So, and the thing is, when you are getting together to put together a production like that, you've got to make it work. And I think in the end, we're all human beings, as I say, we're all under the same sun. I think we all need to know that we need to get the job done, and we need to entertain people. I think that brings people together a lot.
So it'd be good this year, hopefully without any COVID restrictions, to get back to normal, I'm guessing.
It would be nice. I mean, we just don't know, Martin, do we? I think we've all now lived through this over the last 2 or 3 years, and no, we can't absolutely, rule a line on anything. It would be good. We got through it last year. It was lovely to see the audiences back again. People were in masks at that point. We had to do a lot of stuff behind stage. We were testing every day, sometimes twice a day, really, to be honest. But we got through it. Let's hope we don't have to have that again. And I think, I think there's a feeling that it'll just be that much better again like that. And I think, I've noticed, I've checked in the other day on the Ivanano website. It's always good. I always like to see when the front rows start going. You always feel that way because people book front, people come as a party and book. And I noticed on a lot of the days, those front rows were going. So if you're one of the front rowers, don't hang about. You'll need to get in and get to the Arno website as soon as possible and get those tickets booked.
Okay, now we've talked about your pantomime involvement. What else are you up to these days?
So a number of different things, actually. The former MP for Guildford, Anne Milton, told me it was a portfolio life that I now lead, which I think is basically a slightly posher phrase for a freelancer, I suppose. I do a number of things. I do a bit of radio, so I do some BBC Radio Surrey. I also do a regular program for a station on the south coast called V2 Radio, and then I also pop up doing various bits and pieces, from voiceover work to presentations to event hosts. So I was at Guildfest the other week, hosting on the main stage. I was at Henley Festival this year, and I also help companies with their own media output, advise on that, help them on that, consult on that as well. Plus business values and culture work, which is something we did a lot with the radio station group that I was with before. So I help with that. So I'm around a fair amount. I think irritatingly for some people, I keep popping up. He's back again. And that's the way I like it. And I have to say, it's a after almost constantly just over 30 years of doing radio every single day, which by the way was fabulous. It was such a privilege to do. To still have this slightly different way of working now is great, and I rather enjoy it.
Well, Peter, thank you very much for giving your time to the Dragon, and good luck with all your endeavours, but especially with the pantomime this year, to you and all those at the Ivanano.
Martin, thank you.